The scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air as Jack Reynolds stood on his front porch, watching the sunrise over the quiet town of Oak Ridge. It had been 5 years since Jack, a retired Marine Corps officer, settled here with his daughter, Emily. He'd seen enough of war and violence to last a lifetime, and had come to Oak Ridge seeking peace. Emily, now 16, was his world. She had her mother's fiery red hair and Jack's determination. They shared a bond forged through loss, resilience, and love. But peace was a fleeting thing. Jack's past had taught him that danger could come when least expected. He just never thought it would arrive at his doorstep in the form of mobsters threatening the one person he loved most. It started on a quiet Friday afternoon. Jack was tinkering in his garage when Emily burst through the door, her face pale and her eyes wide with fear. "Dad!" she gasped. "There's a man outside. He's asking for you." Jack wiped his hands on a rag and walked out to the driveway. A black sedan was parked by the curb, its tinted windows reflecting the afternoon sun. 2 men stood by the car, their suits immaculate despite the dusty road. One of them, tall and wiry with a snake-like grin, stepped forward. "Mr. Reynolds," the man said smoothly, "we need to talk." Jack's gaze hardened. "Who are you?" "Call me Vincent." The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We represent Mr. DeLuca. He's got business interests here in Oak Ridge, and we'd like to make sure everything runs smoothly." Jack crossed his arms. "I'm not interested in your business." Vincent chuckled. "Oh, we're not here for you. We're here because of your daughter." Jack's blood ran cold. "Stay away from her," he growled. Vincent's expression remained calm, but his words carried a sharp edge. "She's a smart girl, Mr. Reynolds, and Mr. DeLuca likes smart girls working for him. We're just here to make an offer." Jack stepped closer, his fists clenched. "You're making a mistake." Vincent's smile faded. "Think it over. We'll be back." As the men drove away, Jack turned to Emily. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Dad, what's going on?" Jack pulled her into a protective embrace. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll handle it." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. Memories of his time in the Marines flooded back. He'd faced dangerous men before, men like DeLuca who thrived on fear and intimidation. The next morning, Jack made a call to an old friend, Marcus Hayes, a former FBI agent. "Jack, it's been years. What's going on?" Marcus's voice crackled over the line. "I need information on a man named DeLuca," Jack said. "He's targeting my daughter." Marcus sighed. "DeLuca's bad news. Runs a crime syndicate out of Chicago. Drugs, extortion, human trafficking. If he's interested in your town, it's not good." "I need to know how to stop him," Jack said. "Jack, this isn't a fight you want to take on alone." "I don't have a choice," Jack replied. "Emily's life is at stake." Marcus sighed again. "I'll see what I can dig up, but be careful. DeLuca's men don't play fair." 2 days later, Vincent and his men returned. This time, they weren't smiling. "Mr. Reynolds," Vincent said, stepping out of the car, "I hope you've reconsidered our offer." Jack stood on his porch, a shotgun resting casually in his hands. "I told you to stay away," he said. Vincent's smile was cold. "You're making this difficult. DeLuca doesn't like difficult people." Jack cocked the shotgun. "I don't like people threatening my family." Vincent's eyes narrowed. "You think you can take us on? We're not some street thugs. We're professionals." Jack raised the shotgun. "So am I." The standoff was tense. Finally, Vincent raised his hands. "All right, Mr. Reynolds, we'll be back. But next time, we won't be so polite." As they drove away, Jack knew he had crossed a line. The fight was inevitable. Jack spent the next few days preparing. He fortified his home, set up security cameras, and stocked up on supplies. He also trained Emily in basic self-defense. "Dad, are you sure about this?" she asked. "I'm sure," Jack said. "These men won't stop until we make them." Emily nodded, determination in her eyes. "Then let's do it." Jack was proud of her courage, but he knew the battle ahead would test them both. One stormy night, Jack's security cameras picked up movement outside. The black sedan returned, followed by 2 more cars. Jack watched from his window as a dozen men emerged, armed and ready. "Emily, stay upstairs," Jack ordered. He took up his position by the front door, shotgun in hand. As the men approached, Jack opened fire, taking down the first wave. Vincent shouted orders, but Jack's military training gave him the upper hand. He moved with precision, taking out the mobsters one by one. Inside, Emily watched in fear and awe. Her father was a force to be reckoned with. Finally, Vincent and Jack came face to face. "You could have walked away," Vincent said, aiming his gun. "So could you," Jack replied. The two men circled each other, their guns raised. "This ends now," Jack said. Vincent smirked. "You're right." The sound of a gunshot echoed through the night. Vincent fell to the ground, clutching his chest. Jack lowered his gun, his heart pounding. The police arrived shortly after, rounding up the remaining mobsters. Marcus called to congratulate Jack on a job well done. "You've made enemies, Jack, but you've also made a statement. Oak Ridge won't be an easy target anymore." Jack nodded. "That's all I wanted." Emily hugged her father tightly. "You saved me." Jack kissed her forehead. "I'll always protect you." As the sun rose over Oak Ridge, peace returned to the town. Jack knew the fight wasn't over, but for now, he could rest knowing his daughter was safe. And he'd do it all again if it meant keeping her that way. Jack Reynolds never sought violence, but when his family was threatened, he stood tall. His past had prepared him for moments like these, when standing up against evil was the only choice. Oak Ridge would remember the day a veteran took a stand, reminding everyone that some fights are worth risking everything for.